So we have two sort of main arms of our support services. The first are our support groups, and the second is our Billy's Buddies program. So the support groups are just what you would imagine. They're the groups for patients that have melanoma, and or we have separate groups for caregivers as well. I think what happens in the groups is really powerful. Patients coming together to sort of talk about, the challenges having been diagnosed with melanoma and what that means for them moving forward. And it's both an emotional support and a practical support. Billy's Buddies is a one-on-one peer mentoring program. So we train volunteer buddies who are patients that have had melanoma. We train them to then be partnered with a patient who is newly diagnosed with melanoma or has recurrent disease. Billy's Buddies was started by a woman and her husband, Amy Walls, and Billy Walls, before he died of melanoma. He wanted to create something where anybody that wanted a buddy or a support person would have access to this. So it's a wonderful thing that they started many years ago and is still going really strong today. So I do have some patients that participate in both, and for some people it's one or the other.
I was first diagnosed with melanoma in 2008, so 15 years ago. And at that point, I reached out to what was then MFNE and was kind of looking for program support, some kind of way to figure out what was happening. My kids were much younger at that point, and so I was really trying to figure out how I was gonna do a year of medication while raising my family, and got a lot of support from the foundation, and hooked up with Billy's Buddies and How to Buddy. I find it's helpful in that people understand where you're coming from. It's not a random person, it's not just a therapist somewhere saying, oh, well, that must be difficult. It's somebody who has actually been there to have that understanding, and they know what you need. Even just allowing you to vent and you don't expect anything back. I don't want anything back necessarily. I just want to be able to say, this sucks on so many levels. And somebody to say, yeah, it really does. And not try to cure it, not try to fix it, not try to give you platitudes. So I had this Billy's Buddy, and then I lost my son 14 months ago from uveal melanoma, which is a very rare form of melanoma that attacks that's found in your eye. He originally was diagnosed when he was 14, and then 10 years later it came back. Through that experience, IMPACT set me up with a woman who lost her son at a very similar age, under very similar circumstances. Emailing her, texting her, gave me a sense of community in a way that nobody wants to belong in this community. But she understood how devastated we were. She understood how unfair this disease is. Allowing somebody to really talk about how they feel with no bars around it allowed me to start to heal a little bit.
The DecisionDx-Melanoma test is a gene expression profile test. We call it a GEP test, which is used to help improve the accuracy of risk stratification for patients who've been diagnosed with invasive cutaneous melanoma. And what this test does is that it looks at a range of different levels of gene expression from the tumor that goes into an algorithm that then produces a risk score. It's a grouped class score that can be used to integrate with the known risk factors of your melanoma to then improve the accuracy of risk stratification to inform a range of decisions that follow after you've been diagnosed with an invasive cutaneous melanoma. There's also a integrated test report result to produce precise and personalized risk scores for sentinel node positivity, as well as risk of recurrence, which can be very impactful for patients who are making important management decisions after they've been diagnosed with invasive cutaneous melanoma. So essentially, it's a test that is used by clinicians to inform their management at important inflection points for patients after they've been diagnosed with melanoma.